The Raiden Shogun is finally here. The Electro Archon is a 5-star Electro unit that is officially classified as support by MiHoYo. Yet, she also demands on-field time to fully make use of her kit. Additionally, she has aspects that make her seem like a standard on-field DPS. These factors, combined with the outcry in the Genshin community over another Archon and the potential for an Electro buff or Yoimiya fix, are causing significant chaos throughout her banner's duration. If you're on the fence about pulling the Raiden Shogun, you should know what you're getting into before you wish. Before You Wish is a video series dedicated to noting the good, bad, and ugly of characters in Genshin Impact. Many aspects of a unit are not apparent to the average Genshin player even after playing them in the trials, due to the inaccurate testing environment that can make characters seem better than they truly are. Explicitly noting the pros and cons of these characters in full detail should inform you about how to push them to their highest potential and what it costs to do so. As always, if you enjoy a character for reasons like their voice actor, aesthetic, or personality, these videos are by no means meant to stop you from spending your Primogems on them. Instead, they should prepare you for the types of problems that you'll need to solve or work around to meet your gameplay expectations. Let's get started. The Raiden Shogun is an example of MiHoYo's general design for Electro units. She's got high energy costs, strong multipliers, and capitalizes heavily on energy recharge. She's in the same position as other Electro units, with her inability to amp her own damage significantly, but she has plenty of tools to carve out her own niche because of her uniqueness. The Raiden Shogun has a fairly complex kit, and similar to Kazuha, understanding it is important to reaching her full gameplay potential. Raiden's normal attacks with her polearm are fairly standard, with nothing to note. Her elemental skill grants the Eye of Stormy Judgment buff to the entire party, and increases the elemental burst damage of each character based on the energy cost. While the Eye of Stormy Judgment is active, it will deal AoE electro damage with each attack by any party member, with a cooldown of 0.9 seconds. The Raiden Shogun's passives are a vital part of her kit, since picking up elemental orbs or casting elemental bursts will grant her resolve stacks based on the cost of the elemental bursts that are cast. These stacks directly increase the damage that she can deal while using both parts of her elemental burst, Musou no Hitotachi and Musou Isshin. Additionally, Raiden will return flat amounts of energy to her party and gain additional electro damage bonus based on her energy recharge. Raiden's elemental burst, Secret Art Musou Shinsetsu, has two parts. She slashes enemies around her with a Musou no Hitotachi, and then wields a Tachi for 7 seconds during her Musou Isshin state. Again, the damage that Raiden gains from her resolve stacks is a significant contributor to her personal output. Raiden will also seemingly blink to enemies during her normal attacks, so she has strong forward momentum during her burst that makes her much more smooth to pilot. The peculiar thing about Raiden, however, is that her burst during Musou Isshin will have normal and charged attack, movement, and animations, but count as burst damage. So attacks from Xingqiu's burst and Fischl's first ascension will work, but Beidou and Electro Traveler's attacks from their bursts will not be triggered. As you can see already, just based on her kit description, Raiden seems to be an on-field DPS that revolves around dealing damage based on the energy costs of her supports, with some additional interactions based on her energy recharge mechanics, which is the crux of how Raiden interacts with the Genshin roster. Generally, Raiden isn't a selfish DPS unit without Constellations 2 and 3, and without Engulfing Lightning, as her damage output is not fantastic without these extremely strong tools. She will deal roughly equal DPS, if not slightly better damage than units like Keqing and Diluc, who are both not completely selfish characters as they rely on sub-DPS units to deal out a large chunk of team damage, Beidou for Keqing and Xingqiu for Diluc. Additionally, Raiden's single-target DPS will generally be lower than top-tier DPS. However, Raiden's utility extends far beyond her personal damage alone, and her team buffs are intended to balance out her generally lower personal damage. Additionally, Raiden has high interruption resistance and large AoE on her burst normals. As such, Raiden's damage might be lower than other characters, but it is easier to deal her damage, making her very comfortable to play. Unfortunately for theory crafters, it is hard to confirm mathematically how much Raiden contributes to most teams, because of the identity split between being a main DPS and support burst DPS, layered on top of the multitude of buffs she provides her team. Her mediocre personal damage output, combined with the difficulty of determining the value of her buffs because of the variability of their value to a team, can leave Raiden's position in the meta in flux. It will take theory crafters some time to determine her true value. Raiden requires teammates that can synergize with her because she needs to be on field for at least 5 to 7 seconds to make use of her elemental burst. She also relies on teammates that have high-cost elemental bursts for her personal damage output. The Raiden Shogun has synergy with Xiangling, Xingqiu, and Sarah, who have strong elemental bursts with high energy costs. Surprisingly, she can also work in Eula compositions as a gap filler in her rotations. She can also function as a battery, and is a general upgrade from Fischl or the Electro Traveler. One big issue is that the Raiden Shogun cannot drive discharges from Beidou's burst for strong AoE electro damage, despite how well their kits would work together otherwise. Raiden's weapon options are fairly hard to quantify because of the energy recharge scaling built into her kit. Engulfing Lightning provides a passive that has strong synergy with Raiden in totality, and increases her support capabilities while avoiding the loss of significant amounts of damage. But it is not as large of a jump as Hu Tao with the Staff of Homa. Luckily, the Catch is a very strong free-to-play 4-star option for Raiden players. Her other 5-star options will generally fall behind Engulfing Lightning, especially at higher energy recharge amounts, as Engulfing Lightning will convert her energy recharge to attack. But at lower energy recharge amounts, other weapon options will be slightly closer in value. As for her constellations, the first and second constellations offer great bonuses that will increase Raiden's damage output. Increasing the resolve stacks gained from elemental bursts allow Raiden's team compositions to provide her more damage, and the 60% defense penetration is an approximate 40% DPS boost over C1. Her third constellation provides levels for her elemental burst for extra power. Her fourth constellation is strange since its effects would only be apparent on the second rotation and onward. Her fifth is fairly weak, and her sixth constellation has questionable utility by reducing elemental burst cooldowns by up to 5 seconds across her team. But very few rotations can make effective simultaneous use of both this effect and her battery abilities. So when should you pull for Raiden? The Raiden Shogun is a unique character that offers a spectrum of buffs for her team and herself. If you want a premier support character for some of the strongest sub-DPS characters in the game, like Xingqiu and Fischl, she's a great option. Additionally, she is the first unit who has opened the door for dual carry compositions, giving her a vast amount of team options in the future, with all things considered. The Raiden Shogun's on-field damage and energy output allow her to carve out a new and unique position within the meta. Now, when should you not pull for her? It is difficult to recommend pulling for Raiden since there are many factors determining her strength relative to the rest of the roster. To be honest, her damage output on the field can be fairly weak compared to other options, and her lack of interaction with Beidou can be considered crippling. If you're worried about her power, it is recommended to wait for our theory crafting community to get a better grasp of what her limits are before pulling her. Let's go over a brief summary. Some of her pros include the following. She's the strongest universal battery capable of providing energy for any element in any number of units. She has decent damage output while in burst, and good off-field AoE potential. She is consistent and self-sufficient off-field electro application and consistent team-wide burst damage % buff on her skill. She can gap fill in rotations up to 8 seconds at a time, and is extremely powerful with her early constellations. She's got some good weapon selection, and can build ER for comfort and energy generation without losing much damage. Lastly, she's quite versatile and can be fit into other teams quite easily. Some of her cons include the following. She's got an awkward identity, in between a main carry and a sub-carry in playstyle and field time. Damage at Constellation 0 is lower than other carries that use less or the same field time. She also requires at least 5 to 7 seconds of uninterrupted field time in a rotation to get full value from her burst. While her skill does do consistent off-field damage, the scaling is low. She wants to be placed in teams with expensive 80 energy cost bursts, and ideally wants team compositions built around her in some capacity. Many elements already have their own dedicated battery units, so Raiden may not be such a big improvement for some compositions. Thanks for watching this quick overview of the KQM Theory Crafting staff's initial thoughts on the Raiden Shogun. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and we will do our best to answer them.